Are you a parent navigating the complexities of co-parenting, family court, or even domestic violence? If you are looking for ways to help protect your children and build a strong and supportive community around you, then look no further. Gray Minds Think Alike is your go-to resource for everything related to the complexities of family life. Join us as we dive into thoughtful conversations with experts and explore practical tips and strategies for tackling the challenges of parenthood in the throes of adversity so that no parent feels alone and every child's safety is protected.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Gray Minds Think Alike. Today we are talking with Senator Lori Berman of District 26, representing parts of central Palm Beach County since being elected in 2018.
Nova Gibson,
Lori previously served 4 terms in the Florida House of Representatives from 2010 until her election to the Senate. Senator Berman was the Senate sponsor of Greyson's Law and played a pivotal role in getting it passed, and I got to see her in action many times at the Capitol. Hi, Senator Berman. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's an honor to have you on. And thank you for all that you've done to help Florida be the best it can be for its people.
Hi, Allie. I'm so glad to be with you. And you have been the one who has helped make Florida the best for its people.
If you could just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your background.
I'm so proud of everything you did and proud to be on this podcast with you.
So as you said, I'm a professional counselor here in Brisbane, Queensland,
he did a lot of it.
Australia.
He was watching us.
I
guess just to start, let's just, if you don't mind telling our listeners a little bit about your background, how you got into politics, what did you do before?
Sure.
So
I actually worked on my first political campaign when I was in high school. And I got a good friend of mine. I went to high school in Broward County at Nova High. A good friend of mine's father ran for Congress, and we all worked on the campaign. He didn't win, but we had a blast. And that was when I got the political bug. I went to law school, and I practiced law for many years. And then when my children were a little older, I decided I wanted to get back into politics, and I ran for my first office as a state rep in 2010. So it's always been a passion of mine, and I love doing it. It's gotten a little tougher in 2010, but we have term limits in the state of Florida, and you get 8 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate, and I have 2 more years, and then I will be turned out. So not sure what's going to happen after that.
Any big plans?
I couldn't do the couples counseling anymore because you have to be there for both people. And I could see, especially from my personal experience, that I could see that there was a power imbalance
many years. I did also work on,
and that's when
I worked as a legislative aide for Congressman Robert Wexler. I also worked in-house for a bank in Boca Raton. Then I went and got a master's of law in estate planning. So I have a little bit of background in that area. I kind of did a little bit.
Just my favorite, estate planning. Okay. Well, so I'm just curious because I haven't, it's been a while since I've been in social studies class. What do you actually do as a senator?
Sure. So I love to give people a little civics lesson. Don't want to be
disorder
but how a bill comes along.
My version and the version I haven't got
under the Florida Constitution, there is literally one responsibility that we have. And that responsibility is actually to pass a balanced budget. And that's it. We don't have to pass any laws.
The abuse
but it's a lot of laws. I would say there's been a concerted effort to pass less laws. So we've passed about 200 to 300 laws per session. Considering that there's 160 legislators in the House, they're allowed to bring 7 bills. In the Senate, we can do unlimited. So there are thousands of bills that get introduced every session, and it gets winnowed down very quickly to 200 to 300. And for the civic lesson, out of bill becomes a law. The Schoolhouse Rock, it is pretty much like what we were all taught in Schoolhouse Rock. You have to have a senator and a representative introduce the bill. Then they are assigned to committees, typically 3 committees in each chamber. So 3 House committees, 3 Senate committees. As you know well, because you were there for many of the Senate and House committees.
Now, do you believe that's considered a disorder?
We look into, there may be some compromises. There is some sausage making in the process to get the bill where everybody can agree to it. And then
is relative in
your 3
terms of
committees. You have to go to the full floor of the House, the full floor of the Senate, that has to be the same exact bill
who have
that passes
no
in both chambers.
no compassion,
and then once you get through that, you still have the final potential veto of the governor. It is hard work.
The people we consider to be normal, I guess, in
through the House and Senate,
people
and he
who
just
have empathy, where you wouldn't intentionally
the governor
hurt
vetoed.
someone
It was about water quality.
It's a disorder,
and it was a
because
bipartisan bill. I had a Republican co-sponsor, and in the House it was a Republican sponsor and a Democratic co-sponsor. 4 women. We called ourselves the Water Women Warriors.
It's probably the only disorder, in inverted commas,
we worked really hard to get it through.
The person who
did they give a
has
reason,
the
or
disorder
do you not ever know?
Not
he said
negatively
that they already have. It's already being done.
But they have no
if it was
idea.
already being done, we wouldn't have so many problems with water quality.
There's something a bit different about that, I believe.
Yeah,
that's
so
more
it
in
is
terms
difficult
of
to get a
I'm
bill passed.
special.
Well, I'm sorry that happened. So knowing that you put a lot of work into it.
How grand
Absolutely,
I
it
am.
was very upsetting. And we're looking to
it's a disorder in terms
it
of
for this upcoming year. We're not going to go back with the same.
They're the only.
bill. I think it's the only disorder
where the actual person with the disorder
maybe putting together
not
a
negatively
task force
impacted by
to look
it,
into
and
water
everyone
issues and make
around
some
the
recommendations
person
about what should be done in the state.
Is in therapy.
That makes sense
for that person.
Yeah.
Now, how do you choose what battles to fight for when
believe that
presenting new bills each year? I'm sure people come to you every day.
Not every day, but a fair amount of time. When I was in the House, extraordinarily picky about which I wanted to be my Senate bills. I always took 1 or 2 bills that I would call my statement bills that I knew had very little chance of being a passage, but I felt it was important for us to every year make a statement. For instance, gun violence. So I would always do a bill every single year. 1 year I did it to limit the amount of bullets in a magazine. 1 year I did it to say you can't bring a gun into a daycare center or a hospital. Every year I did a different one of those, and I knew that they weren't going to pass, but it was a bill that was important to me. I also did the Equal Rights Amendment every year because that was important to me, and I knew that was an uphill battle in the state of Florida. And then I try and pick, and then also, as you mentioned, I'm an attorney. So the Florida bar, different sections, especially the real property and probate and the business law, which are more what I practice, come to me every year usually with 1 or 2 bills. And those bills are based on maybe a court case that they needed to change, or just something that they saw in practice where the law wasn't working the way it's supposed to work. So those bills I traditionally have done. So that will get me additional bills.
If they make a decision
and then I look at the bills that really matter to me. And when I came in, there weren't that many women in the legislature. There are more now. I think I just looked. The Senate is actually going to be over. It's going to be about 37% women, which is great.
It was
we're getting close to our 50. I don't know the number in the House. I did not look about that one. So when I came in, women and children were my focus because I was one of the few women, and there just weren't enough of those bills. So a lot of times, what I was looking for, and when people would come to me, like for instance, there are people who focus on doing bills for animal protection. That wasn't my area as much. I didn't pigeonhole myself. I'll do bills on everything. I'm really proud of a bill I did on public safety for the Purple Alert, which you may have seen in the state, just like Amber. I was the sponsor of the Purple Alert. So when there's a good idea, and that also came from a constituent too. And I feel like the best ideas we get come from constituents.
They're the ones that, come up with these issues firsthand. So speaking along that, how did you first hear about Grayson's law?
Our leader in the Senate, Lauren Book, asked me to take a look at the bill and said, would this be something that you would be interested in doing? And I took one look at it and I said, absolutely. This was for sure a travesty of justice, and it was something that was in my wheelhouse that I felt very comfortable as an attorney and as someone who has advocated for women and children in the legislature. It really was exactly on point for what I wanted to do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's definitely a sad story. When you heard about it, what was your first impression? What did you want to see change aside from what was in the bill?
What I want to see change is I don't want to see any child ever killed by a parent. Ever. I don't understand that. And it's still going on. And it's very disturbing to me. That's the ultimate goal
so
is no
desirable
parent should
and
ever,
coming on
or their domestic partner. I know
like you're
that's a
the
big problem
only
also,
one,
or
that
abused in any way.
So fast,
that's always been something. One of my gun control bills had a little crossover because I did do a gun control bill about domestic abusers not being able to have access to guns, because we know that's a very important point where we know when they have access to guns, it's very, very dangerous for their partners.
Right. I actually have thought about gun safety or control when it comes to coming up with your parenting plan with your lawyer and your children's time sharing. We have to turn over all of our financial affidavits. We have to literally dissect all of our discovery in front of each other. Yet there's no documentation that says, do you have a firearm in the house? And that is something that I know would have helped me, because I had no idea that Grayson's dad had a firearm or gun. But I think if we have to disclose all of our personal information, I think disclosing that is definitely key. And that's not pro or against guns. This is just transparency.
I totally agree with you. And so much of the bills that I have done are gun safety legislation that are not saying
you were
we're going to come take away your guns at all, but it should be handling things in a safe manner. And I wish that was a question that was on that parenting plan. I do know that we have such a strong lobby on the other side that it would be ridiculously hard to do. I mean, I had a bill last year that we tried to do, which also came from a constituent. A woman who was hit on her own property by a bullet. And the property next door was a shooting range.
Here you are.
And the police said,
this is what we need to discuss.
No one got arrested. There was no ticket.
You end up talking about
and so we tried to do a bill saying, just keep your bullets on your property.
They do this.
You want to have a gun, keep it on your property. And I couldn't even get that bill through the legislature. That's how absurd it is right now in Tallahassee. Whenever you bring up anything about guns, it's for the Republican Party. It's like the third wheel.
Why is it like that? I mean, like I said, this wasn't for or against. This is just, hey, I have a gun.
I know. I don't know. It's just a real issue for the party. They are just so afraid to discuss this at all, and it makes me very sad that our state has become the gunshine state.
That's interesting.
I do not like that term at all. I guess it'll take some tragedy happened to them for them to actually make change.
Parkland was the event that led to some reform in the state of Florida, but now they're trying to undo some of what Parkland did. One of the things that we passed after Parkland said that you can't purchase a gun if you're under the age of 21 in the state. It used to be 18, we raised it to 21. They're trying to roll that back. And I would not be surprised to see that roll back. And then the other really great thing that we did after Parkland, which was my bill, because like I said, I always brought these bills. They took it, and that was fine. I was very happy, was the risk protection orders, which says if someone's a danger to themselves or others, and you know that they have a gun, you can go to court and ask the court to take the gun away. And it's been used more than 10,000 times since 2018 in the state of Florida. That's what it took. Parkland was what it took to get something like that passed. And I hope that we never have something else like Parkland.
You deserve the punishment.
But I wish that my colleagues would be more farsighted and think about the effects of the gun control issue.
Absolutely, especially when children are involved.
Absolutely. I mean, we just saw a child picked up a gun and
you would think, okay,
that
I
was
guess
in their house and shot themselves.
Maybe I shouldn't wear makeup, or
and then
maybe
the other issue is suicide. When there's a gun around and suicidal, they're much more likely to die if they try to do something else.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I really hope that at some point, as a country, we can come together and just say, let's just make it safer. We know you're not going to take them away. Let's just figure out a way to make it safer.
Not talking about taking guns away. I have right to self-defense, especially in their own home. It has been totally turned around in this country, unfortunately. And we've seen that with people going out in the street just shooting people when they shouldn't.
I agree. Now, going back to Grayson's law, we know that it took 2 years to get passed. What do you think
happened the first year? Or why do you think it didn't pass the first round?
So the first round, we had too many chefs.
Right.
And I actually came in a little bit later in the first round. So I wasn't one of the ones who drafted the bill. I came in later, and our chef in the house
and I'm sure
got upset, and everybody kept coming and saying, I want to put this in, I want to put that in. The same, the thing is, in the Florida legislature, things happen in baby steps. In front of you, and if you start putting every single thing in knowing you one bill, it's just going to sink it. And that's pretty much what happened round one of Grayson's law. And the Florida Bar family law section actually opposed the bill. And if you have a bill that affects the family law section and they say, we're opposed to the way this bill is written,
so they can use your insecurities as a weapon
basically. So what happened was over the summer, after when I then became the head chef on the matter, I was the head chef before that. I was one of the cooks putting in. Over the summer, I became the head chef, and I went to the family law section, and I said, we need to do this. You need to work with me. You need to figure out how we're going to make this the bill that will have the impact that we want and that you can all support.
Obviously, the next question,
I will tell you, they did a great job. They had
what the hell do I do then? I've got a child,
because they don't all agree on everything. So they got to a consensus product that everybody was happy with. And that was like a big benefit that then we can come back and say, okay, the family law section of the Florida Bar
doing what you do on your
And do you think it's as strong as it could be? I mean, I know we had to sort of take out some stuff so it would pass, but in your opinion, I'm just curious.
Those boundaries,
of course, I would like it to be strong. You always want it to be as strong as it could be, but I think it's a good product. I really do. I think we got to the point where we made the message clear. Like, if you're a judge, you need to be looking at this factor. You need to be looking at what kind of threats are being made by the person. Time sharing agreement when you're deciding if somebody has to bring their child over. So I think we did a great job getting it to where it needed, where it still had an impact. I wouldn't do a bill if I didn't feel like it was going to have an impact. There's no point in doing versions that wasn't going to have an impact.
Of course, no, I get messages every day saying, Grayson's law saved my child's life. I also get messages saying that the judge threw it out, didn't really know much about it. So I think, implementation is also a big thing. Okay, we have this law. How are we going to use it? How do we get the lawyers to learn more about it? How do we get the judges to understand what it is? I know that there's been trainings. I actually sat in on a few with the Florida Bar on their CLE programs introducing Grayson's law. I don't know how much the judges do in that case, but that's something that I feel strongly about in changing and how we can get these judges to actually do these trainings to learn about, especially when it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah, because I agree, and I'm glad. I know the Florida Bar said that they would take the mantle up on that. As a legislator, I can only do so much. But I knew that the bar was going to take it up. I mean, I would like to continue, and maybe we need to do some op-eds,
may have to get
things like that. We could do some, saying like, simply, this is the law. We've had a chance to see it in effect in Florida. Yes, in some cases it's been wonderful, but in some cases the judges haven't been as aware, and maybe that'll get some public awareness. But I would like to see more public awareness around it.
That's what I know that I felt strongly about, the coercive control language. Just because I feel like it's still not recognized as domestic abuse. Right? And I'm here to tell everyone that it is. It happened. I was abused. Grayson was abused. And I was for 4 years and didn't even know it. But it's not normal to control someone's thought patterns and activities and tracking them. That is not a typical situation.
Yeah, we didn't use the word coercive control because that is also a very, I guess, divisive is the word. It's a word that gets people very up in the air. But a lot of the same concept. But we talked about those concepts in the legislation, which I think was important.
And
have you heard of Caden's law that went federally?
The narcissist will engage in
I did hear of it. Remind me again what it said.
So Caden was a little girl that died at the hands of her father as well up in Pennsylvania. I went to a few fundraisers up in Pennsylvania and met her mom, Kathy, who was instrumental in working with VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, and got Hayden's Law passed that Biden signed federally. Basically, similar things to get mandatory training for judges on this type of abuse. So it is a federal law right now. So I know every state is trying to adapt parts of Hayden law in theirs, which is something I'd like to see maybe happen with Greyson's law, because then we can get federal money for it.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So
most of these cases are state cases, right? It would be unusual to see these cases in federal court, but that would be great. Yeah, I'd have to look into that a little bit. See what we can do. Interesting. Okay, good to know.
Well, I have tons of ideas, so if we ever want to chat about it, I mean, I can come up with a bunch. Just real quick before we continue, I just want to say again how thankful I am that you and Hillary were able to make a difference, because it was the second year. The first year it didn't make much traction, and it was still the same story. So I really do appreciate all your time and attention.
What if there's an emergency?
And I'm sure all the other families across Florida do as well.
Thank you.
Your parenting app
failed Greyson, and that it came to that. But I'm happy
if there's an emergency, that's a really
we were
valid
able to get
point.
legislation passed in his name, and hopefully not fail other children in our state.
Do you think our justice system is flawed?
I do. I mean, I think it's hard to make a perfect justice system. I mean, I look at capital punishment, for instance. We know that it's disproportionately against minorities. I mean, there's always going to be things in our criminal justice system that have issues, and we continue to try and make it better.
To keep control
it's
of
never
you
going
and
to
your
be
emotions.
I guess that's all you can do. I think also calling them out and shining lights on what needs to get better is important, because otherwise they'll never know.
I agree.
How
it's true. I didn't know it was really a problem until
you can
your case.
You can
I didn't understand. I mean, I will tell you, like I said, as the one who was always representing women and children, I went to the Domestic Violence Coalition in the state of Florida. As soon after I was elected, and I would say to them every year, do you have a bill that you want me to pass, that you want me to sponsor? I'm happy to sponsor it. What do you have? And unfortunately, if you know the history, that Domestic Violence Coalition at the time was run by a woman who was taking financial advantage of it and was very tied into not changing the status quo. And they never gave me a bill. Never. In all those years that I would go to them and say, do you have anything? So unfortunately, for those years, there wasn't a lot of activity that was happening to prevent people in domestic violence situations. I think the woman has since been, she might be coming up, might have some charges, left the state, and I think that group is now trying to regroup and be a stronger coalition, which I hope they will be.
Because the court.
What are a few highlights of your career, and what are you most proud of? Or can you share a pivotal moment that shaped your career?
You just got to jump through.
Shaped my career. Wow, that's a hard.
I know for me,
we can leave Greyson's law
my abuser while I was
I mean, certainly Greyson's was pivotal. I mentioned to you a little bit about the Purple Alert. That was really exciting for me to get a bill that would help the whole community of people with developmental disabilities.
Can you tell me exactly what that is?
So what the Purple Alert says, right now we have the Amber Alert and the Silver Alert. The Amber Alert was for young children. If they went missing, the police could immediately start looking for them, because normally when somebody goes missing, the police have like a 24-hour period before they get panicked, because they think maybe the person just got waylaid. They'll come back, so they don't want to spend
or
that.
he's just with his father.
I had to
right, so they won't spend the resources.
And just say,
so we have the Amber for children, and we have the Silver for adults, for over 65.
And then, of course, his
who
response
may have
would be,
dementia
you don't care
issues
about
or
your
things
child.
like that. But we didn't have anything for the middle group, and somebody between 18 and 65. And very often we have people with developmental disabilities. And as soon as they're missing, you've got to start looking, especially someone with autism. What happened in the real world case was somebody in their 20s had autism, wandered off from their family home, actually went to a gas station, but they were totally nonverbal. So they couldn't talk, couldn't say anything, and ended up walking into a lake because of autistic children,
obviously,
particularly, are drawn to water and walked into the lake and drowned.
A divorce,
and so if somebody had known that this person was missing when they saw them in the gas station,
you're going to stay
maybe
with
it could have
me
been prevented. So that was our bill. So if we're in that middle period and you have a developmental disability, the police can start looking for you immediately, and they can put out alerts. A lot of times these people are walking, they're not driving, so you won't see the highway, but the alerts should be out to the whole community in the, especially like in a gas station terminal, which has a lottery terminal. You can have an alert situation so that people in the community know, like, there's a missing person, and they can be on the lookout for that person.
How long do they have to be missing for that?
You just report it right away.
Just at any time.
Why would you
Name like a child, and
they
then
reveal themselves,
over 65. So you can report it right away,
take action, and
set it up and start looking for that person. Last year there were 300 times the purple alert was issued out. It's been a good tool for law enforcement. They really like using it, and they knowing that it's something else in their toolbox that they can use to look for that.
It just never happened.
Allie, I think it would
That's a really good question. I'm just looking back. I would say my real aha moment was like my second year in the legislature,
him your mom's
and my
number
microphone
and said, call
was
my
turned
mom
on
if there's
when I
trouble
was
with
speaking.
Greyson. I mean, it's just,
and I was
I guess it's
I can only imagine the messages my mom
it doesn't happen very much. And
right. I guess,
we were talking about
or you could
something
give
about
my number.
I remember. I don't even remember what the specific bill was about.
And I always
I said,
this is about
at that point I had been a member of the Florida Bar for like
victim.
30 years, maybe 20-something years. And I said something like, as a member of the bar, I can't believe you are doing this. And I found out later on my mic was turned off because I said you, because that was viewed as a personal attack. If I had said, I can't believe the legislature is doing this, it would have been harder them to turn my microphone off.
Because you share a child.
So I learned how you have to address things. And it was a good lesson because I don't take any of this personally, and we shouldn't.
If it was
this
your
should all
mom
be about policy and politics. And unfortunately,
intimidate her, then get
personality has become the reigning in the United States because of former president who does so many personal attacks. I try to sure everything is about policy in Tallahassee. And that's my concern.
Just like that all the time.
That was a pretty good learning
It's a fantastic suggestion, and it's like outside of the box. So
I'm sorry that happened. I'm sure you had great things to say.
I never thought of that before.
I did, and actually, I was mostly through my speech, which was the good part.
Many strategies in my book.
I would have probably just kept talking loudly.
Yeah,
that's funny.
So,
what are some of the best things about being a senator?
Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse
is that I can help my constituents.
It was the best-selling self-help book in Australia
to do with party. I never ask anybody if somebody comes in and they're having a problem with their unemployment, if they're having a problem with their driver's license, if they're having a problem with their Medicaid payments. We can make a difference. Sometimes it's unfortunate that they have to come to us to make a difference, because I wish that the agencies or whoever we're dealing with could just handle the problems and they didn't have to come to us. But a lot of times it just gets so complicated, and bringing us in uncomplicates things, and we can really change people's lives. I mean, when somebody has their driver's license and then they come to us and say, I need my driver's license, I didn't do anything wrong, let's figure this out. It's a big life changer to get your driver's license back, to get money for Medicaid payments, for elderly, for long-term care for people with disabilities. Those are life-changing things that happen. So,
addicted to the roller
during the
coaster,
pandemic, we did so much unemployment insurance because everybody was unemployed.
Not
it was
concrete
really
strategies
a very scary time.
To heal. And it's
to me, that's the greatest honor that I have as a legislator, is that I can help people really get things from government that they're entitled to.
I wish I had it a few years ago, that's for sure.
Obviously, sometimes not everybody's entitled. We have
obviously
those
it's
issues
because
too.
the abuser
I really enjoy that part
a fake
of the job.
love of sorts.
Great.
But
I mean, it's definitely giving back and helping your community. So, it all sounds very great to me.
Most of us,
so what should a constituent do if they want to
have a normal range of emotions.
So
we have
I do once a month. I do constituent day.
From robots, we have
and
empathy.
you can come to my office. You can either, if you don't want to do that, you can write me a letter or an email.
On our behavior.
Email is probably the preferred method. Write me an email.
Love is
put
just
forth
a
your
word.
idea. Tell me why. And if you want to talk to me about it, you can write an email first, and we can set up a day to meet with you. I do it once a month, but we start going to Tallahassee very soon. In December, I'm going to be away on a trip. And in January, we're 2 weeks in Tallahassee, and then February 3, and then all of March and April. So not as much time now, and it's late now. If somebody has an idea pretty late,
what's a good time frame to do that?
Someone who has compassion,
the best time frame is to start probably over the summer, like May or June, before everything gets because next year, especially, committee weeks are early. Committee weeks will start September, October, November. This year, because of the election, we couldn't start till everybody got elected. So the first committee week is not until December this year. But yeah, so I have 30 bills right now that are in the pipeline that we're going to be filing. So it would be hard for me to, I don't have the bandwidth at this point really to add anyone. But if it's something you just think you're going to solve the property insurance crisis, go for it.
What are some big ones that we should look out for next year that you're running with?
Those words.
The other big issue I think we're going to address this session is the condo reserve crisis that's going on because Surfside collapsed and because so many condos have been pushing their maintenance down the road. We said you have to do an inspection, then you have to put money in reserves based on your inspection, or you have to actually fix whatever's an immediate problem. So as a result of that, these condominiums, which had been kicking the can down the road, now have either bills to do the work now, or they have to put away huge reserves so that when they need a new roof in 5 years, the money will be there. Or when they need new plumbing or a new electric, the money will be there. And it's a real problem because we have so many people who are on fixed incomes living in these condominiums. And between the property insurance crisis and the reserve requirements, they can't afford to live there anymore because they're on fixed incomes. So I think we're going to do something about the reserves.
Is there a rehab for this type of person?
Our own loan
for the abuser, for the victim,
the loans
for the abuser.
Banks don't want a loan.
Well, they have to think there was something wrong with themselves.
In the state of Florida,
for them to go into any kind of
we're going to look into some ideas about
facility.
That. Those are, I think, going to be the two biggest issues when we go back to Tallahassee now.
Okay, great. Well, I will look out for them and keep tabs.
Me, I'm a narcissist.
So I have one more question, but before I ask it, I want to just go back to something you said about the purple alerts and the amber and silver alerts. I have always thought, in my situation, why was an amber alert not put out for Greyson? Because he was missing for 2 days. He wasn't called into school. He was missing. And John was missing too. Nobody heard or saw them. Why do you think that never happened?
Did you ask for that? Did you ask
in terms of how much
they just said
money
the child is with his father. He's not missing.
Addressing personality disorders.
In the custodial issue, it's a real
3 or 4%
challenge.
Of cases that actually make it to the family
but you're right.
court.
He was missing. So why wasn't there an alert
seem
put out?
To be so low. What narcissist is going to go? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'll be involved in your research.
It could have helped me because I could have had more access to the building. They had a community gate, and they wouldn't let me in. And that was, that was the hardest part for me at that time because I had to get police escorts.
In your book, should our listeners expect to find?
You're right. He was missing, but he wasn't.
Lots and lots.
I guess the belief was he was with his father.
A lot about divorcing a narcissist.
I know.
It's a really
maybe that's something we can work on down the pipeline.
Confusing
interesting.
time.
Never thought about
and
that.
It's just
all right. So last question.
On steroids. It's a big one. Some people wonder
what do you do for fun outside of the office?
For being able to live without
I love it. Great question.
For taking.
So I love to travel. So my husband and I are working on our 50 states. We're down. He had fun, and I have two. We both have West Virginia and
and
Ohio. I don't know how I've never been there. I haven't been to Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, any of those.
And then
we
dynamic
in December, we're doing our 7th continent, and we're going to Antarctica.
Keeps all behind closed doors.
So what's the temperature like there?
Actually, I mean, it is going to be cold, and it's summer there. Because it's summer. Even their summer's very cold. Somebody told me it's probably like around 30 most of the time. So that's not terrible.
Pit their own children against each other.
And it might be
through what we call triangulation.
Long underwear,
every narcissist does, especially
what was your favorite continent thus far besides US?
Smear campaigns, flying monkeys.
I do love Europe too, but Australia is just so neat. I've been a couple times. We have some friends who are there. So I've been to the Barrier Reef. I've been to
not just to the intimate relationship, but
most
into the
Americans don't go. And of course, Sydney's a lot of fun. We've been to Perth on the West Coast.
Much
I enjoy that. And then the other thing, the other love, I have a couple, but I do like to read. I am in a book club, but the thing that I really like the most and that I try not to have to give up is playing tennis.
And
I love to play tennis, and it's a great release for me as much as I can. I have a steady game on Sunday morning.
What are your thoughts on pickleball?
Can you give our listeners
so I've heard about too many people getting injured in pickleball.
So
I know people love it.
Absolutely.
I've heard about too many people having injuries, and I love my tennis.
Discarded by a narcissist.
Stick with what you know. That sounds good.
Yeah, but I would say travel, reading, and tennis are my three
great things. I enjoy traveling as well. It's pretty much the only thing that keeps me going at this point.
Yeah, it has. I see you a lot on Facebook and social media on your trips, and they look like they're a lot of fun.
You feel like
I actually try to do things for Gray, like things that I wouldn't normally do on my own. I do it just for Gray, like going down a water slide, or I typically wouldn't have done that by myself before I had Greyson. So I do things for him, and I pretend he's with me sometimes.
I don't know, whatever it is that you were thinking about that you want to stretch the budget a little bit,
surround
tragic situation
and made it a positive for the residents of the state of Florida.
Narcissist is doing because
I have to do something. So
manipulating.
I know you're busy.
Else.
And I appreciate you so much with talking with us and sharing all your knowledge. And we look forward to hearing all about the new session, new bills, and hope to have you back sometime.
Would love to come back anytime, Allie.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Senator Berman. And we will be in touch.
You on Valentine's Day.
So that's something
Talk to you later. To be prepared for. Also,
that's interesting.
Because they want you obviously to suffer, and they want you to align them with that day for years to come. So it's not just about suffering. It's about creating a conditioned response so that every Valentine's Day, will you be thinking of that day as something potentially happy, or will you be associating it with the trauma of being discarded and seeing them with the new supply, which is just horrific. They pick those days for a reason so that Christmases, you remember them. You don't remember happy times. So self-love, wrap your arms around yourself. You spoil yourself and get lots and lots of support. Please don't think that they are with someone else and that they have changed for that person. As sure as the sun will come up tomorrow, they have to drop the mask. It's like what goes up must come down. It's not sustainable for them to be someone who they are not. They have to revert to who they really are eventually. So they will go through exactly the same cycle with the next person, but you're traumatized and you have a normal range of emotions. So if you look, you will hurt, and they want you to hurt. So you will see all the happy snaps. You will think, what's wrong with me? But why are they, what's better about that person? Nothing. They just conditioned you to believe everything was your fault. They left you with no closure so that you would be frantic, seeking closure. And they left you just an absolute basket case or feeling crazy, because that's the goal of narcissistic abuse. So there's nothing better with that person. But if you look, you will see what they want you to see, and you will hurt. So don't ask people what they're doing, and don't look. Don't have a sneak peek on Instagram at what their new target is doing. That's contact. And that is like the heroin addict putting the needle back in their arm. that's looking at their Instagram. It's just as damaging. You may as well pick up the phone and call them. So lots of self-love and no contact or minimal contact, grey rock if you share children or you have to see.
Got it. Those are all very good tips.
And I just wanted to stress, expect the Hoover. But you've got to be pro, not react, because when you are if you're that heroin addict and you're in terrible withdrawal, and the drug dealer who does not want a paying client to get clean waves a bag of drugs in front of you, it's just a matter of time. So you've got to block them everywhere. You've got to be proactive. And if they get that rose through, I don't know, through a flying monkey or something you just least expect that you forgot to block, do not think of it as flattering or that they've changed. They are trying to regain control of you. We are not talking about isolated incidents. Anyone can have a bad day. We're talking about what you've got to trust your instincts around now, which is these consistent, ongoing patterns of behavior over space and time.
Now, I'm just curious, before we wrap up, we talk a lot about narcissists and their partners or relationships, but what about the child dealing with a narcissistic parent or a coworker? Maybe you're a narcissist and your coworkers have to deal with that behavior. What can they do? Because clearly it's probably dealt with a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, a young child, unfortunately, I can't speak to them. I can speak to the parents in terms of getting that child into counseling, getting them lots of support, obviously talking to them at an age appropriate level, but getting them their own support. But the adult child of a narcissist, you're allowed to block a toxic parent. You don't have to see them because you're connected through DNA. That's really hard to come to terms with when you've been conditioned over a lifetime through fear, obligation, and guilt that you are this person because they birthed you. And that narcissistic parent will get more reliant on you as they get older because all their supplies are drying up. So they fall back very heavily on you. So the abuse ramps up because you're it and you don't owe them. We don't owe our parents. It's just something we, in a loving relationship, we naturally do. But with a narcissistic parent, it's a debt. That's a debt you will never pay in full. You're allowed to block them and do not feel the need to explain yourself to them, number one, because they know why. Right. They're abusing you. They're gaslighting you. They're covertly abusing you. Giving you the little subtle insults under the guise of caring when they come over. Geez, your house isn't as clean as it was last week, or have you put on a few pounds? I'm really worried about your weight. The backhanded compliment or really an insult, those types of things. You're allowed to go no contact, and you don't have to explain yourself to them, and definitely not to others who will be the recipients of a smear campaign and will see this only what the narcissistic parent has projected out to the world, that you are the perfect family and they're the perfect parent, and you're a wayward child who's ungrateful and just doesn't, it's just not seeing how much they did for you and is just being so cruel, trying to stay away from them in their hour of need when they're getting older. That will be the type of thing they spread around. And you don't have to explain to those people who don't get it, who won't. Those people who don't walk in your shoes, they won't get it. Society doesn't get it. And the narcissist will make damn sure they don't see who you see. So for those children, your healing journey comes when you are in an environment that is not making you sick. And that means either no contact or very firm boundaries around contact, which may mean a hiatus, having a break, or just setting time limits and things like that.
Well, I agree with all of that. And I hope our listeners were able to get some valuable and helpful tips. And I will definitely be grabbing your book because I want to read all about fake love.
Great.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm so glad that, I was able to, I guess, provide a little bit of insight into what you can do and the fact that it's not your fault and that you are conditioned to not trust yourself, to feel crazy. That is the goal, to make you feel crazy. And it is not.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
My absolute pleasure. Erin and Ali, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you.
All right. Thanks, Nova.
If there's someone that you want to hear from on this podcast, please feel free to send me an email. Or if you would like to be a guest, please reach out at allie@graysonschoice.org.
If you'd like to continue to hear our podcast, please consider donating at graysonschoice.org.